Hello there guys, RMP792 here, and I'll be talking a little bit quietly in this vlog because I'm recording it at 8 o'clock in the morning and the other people in the house aren't up yet, so I don't want to disturb them too much. So, Deadpool. Went to go see it yesterday. I'll do what I usually do when I do a vlog and a film. I'll give spoiler-free impressions first, and then I'll sort of give you a warning before I actually delve into spoilers. Spoiler-free, I liked it. It was a fun, enjoyable movie. A lot of people seem to be claiming it's the greatest movie ever or things like that. It's not, but it is a good, fun, enjoyable film, and I do definitely think it's worth seeing, provided you like, kind of dumb humour. There's lots of fourth wall breaks. There's lots of stuff that is basically just slapstick, and there's a lot of stuff that's just based around sort of a lot of swearing. And if that's not your kind of humour, fair enough. But it is my kind of humour sometimes. So generally I enjoyed it. I think it was good, and I do think it's worth seeing. Okay, that's the general summation. Now for spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen it yet, spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I think the slapstick in this movie is actually its best comedy, because live action slapstick is actually incredibly difficult to do well. When you're talking about sort of classic cartoon slapstick, so things like Wile E. Coyote cartoons, the amount of damage that the cartoon can take means that the slapstick is inherently funnier. Wile E. being concertinaed like an accordion is absolutely hilarious, because he's going to be fine at the end of it, because he's a cartoon, he can take it. And that's why the slapstick in Deadpool works better than a lot of live-action slapstick, because most live-action slapstick, it's a case of, they slip on some balls and they fall over, and it's funny because they fell over. But they're not seriously hurt, and you'd feel bad for them if they were. With Deadpool is basically a cartoon character in this movie. Because he's got the healing factor, and he can absolutely take it. The scene where he tries to punch Colossus in the face and just breaks his hand, and then tries to punch Colossus in the nuts and breaks his other hand, and then tries to roundhouse kick him in the head and breaks his foot, is hilarious. Or it certainly was to me, purely because it's all about the level of violence, and that is a very, very violent piece of slapstick, which would not work with pretty much any other character, because Deadpool is, to all intents and purposes, a live-action cartoon character. He can cut his hand off in one scene and it'll be fine in a couple of scenes down the line. Which is, it works. As to the fourth wall humour, some of it's quite good. I'll freely admit, I chuckle at the bit where he's getting dragged away. You need to come see Professor. Which one, McAvoy or Stewart? I laughed at that. And I'll freely admit, I really chuckled at the line where he sort of goes to the X-Mansion and he's going, it's a big mansion, but I only have to see you two. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford to hire more X-Men. Unsubtle as hell, absolutely on the nose, but I found it funny. Maybe I'm just easily amused, I don't know, but as for the actual main plot of the movie, let's be honest, the main plot was an excuse to hang jokes on. It's very standard superhero fare, but with a twist of the guy being a complete and utter dick throughout. Because Deadpool is a dick, make no mistake about that. But I'll freely admit that Ryan Reynolds was very well cast in this. I mean, let's face it, he's been trying to play Deadpool for absolutely years. And yes, he is clearly just having an absolute whale of a time playing the role, and that just absolutely shine through, because it lets him be a complete tool. He and, I can never remember how to pronounce her name, the lead actress, who I'm just going to call it Inara, because she was Inara in Firefly. But yes, he and Inara actually have really good chemistry. And I'll freely admit, the scene at the beginning where he gives her some money and says, you can do whatever you want for 48 minutes. So he takes her to some skee ball. Okay. I'll freely admit, I didn't see that coming, so well done filmmakers. But I would have liked it if she'd had a little more to do in the midsection of the film, rather than just be an object for him to be after. And I'll freely admit, I like the scene where she runs the bad guy through with a sword. Again, would have been nice for her to have a little bit more to do other than be the fairly generic damsel in distress. But her running the bad guy through with a sword was quite fun to watch. So there's that. The rest of the cast, his friend who runs the bar, fine, and he's basically functional as your sort of comedy relief sidekick. But let's be honest, you don't need a comic relief sidekick in a movie about Deadpool, who is the comic relief sidekick to himself. So he was kind of unnecessary, but he didn't overstay his welcome and get too annoying. The blind lady who he lives with was basically pointless. She didn't have terribly much to do beyond a couple of blind jokes at of her trying to put up the cabinet and it's falling over. So that, as I think you could have dropped her from the plot without losing anything. Colossus basically plays as the straight man to Deadpool's comic relief, and that relationship works, I'll freely admit. And as I said, the scene with Deadpool just breaking his limbs trying to hurt Colossus is quite funny. And I'll freely bet I really like the bit in Colossus's fight with Angel, was it? The villainess? Where her boob pops out of her shirt and he's like, oh god, no, sorry. He waits until she's put it back in before they go back to try to beat each other up. And yeah, that's a cute scene. The sidekick character who is, what was it, Negasonic Teenage Warhead? I can't decide if that is a great superhero name or a terrible superhero name, which I think is kind of the point. I kind of like it. Yeah, I suspect a character like that, again, she doesn't overstay her welcome. She's in it just enough to get the joke across that she's standing there before the battle, tweeting something, and then she just throws him his phone, throws her phone to him, and then just charges at the villain. Again, one joke character, but doesn't overstay her welcome, so that works. That's kind of it for the supporting cast, isn't it? Oh, and the taxi driver. I like the taxi driver. I remember particularly when you realise that, oh god, he's actually kidnapped the guy and he's going to kill him. And I realised, because Deadpool's so forgetful and he left that massive, that Hello Kitty bag full of, 60, 70 guns in the guy's car. Ooh, that guy's in a lot of trouble with the police. He's got a body in the back, probably quite badly injured after he got run into by the car behind him. And he's carrying an awful lot of firearms. Oh dear. This is what comes from being friends with Deadpool. It does not end well. But as a lot of the comedy was fairly predictable. If you've seen the trailers, you know exactly the movie you're going to get. But it worked. I was in an extremely full cinema, and yeah, there was at least one point where people were laughing so hard at one joke that I missed like 2 or 3 lines of dialogue from the next scene because I couldn't hear it over the audience laughing. And that's okay. It is a comedy film, and it is in places very, very funny. The violence level also helps. Frankly, it's Deadpool decapitates the guy and then kicks the head towards another guy. Yep, that's the kind of stupid thing that Deadpool will do. And the joke where he where one of the guys who's shooting at who's actually an ex-army guy who he used to know, and he's just like, "Oh hey, how are the kids?" Poof, and just knocks him out rather than killing him. Yeah, that's about the level of Deadpool. So yeah, it was a fun, enjoyable film. It is very much one of those films where some films you'll see where you'll watch the trailer and then you'll go and see the film and you'll just think, that trailer was almost nothing to do with the film. I don't know why they cut the trailer that way. It implied so many things that aren't in the film or whatever. This is not that film. This is the film where if you've seen the trailer, you know exactly what you're going to get, and that's okay. It's the classic case of sometimes you want a really good, really properly cooked steak, and sometimes you just want a cheap burger. This film is the cheap burger. It is fun, it is enjoyable, and it works. Quick comment about the post-credit scene, which yes, I did like. Again, we have the obvious, we don't have the budget joke, and I will say you can kind of tell towards the end that the studio took $7 million away from them pretty much at the last minute. Because there's a few effects that don't look quite as good as they should and things like that, but it works for you're not really watching this film for the action, you're watching it for the comedy, and the comedy does work. So again, it's a fairly dumb film, but it's a very enjoyable kind of dumb, which is okay. So yes, they want to do Deadpool 2, which, based on the amount of money this film has made already, they're probably going to get to. And they want to do Cable in the sequel. Yeah, Cable is one of the most boring characters I'm aware of in the X-Men continuity. But I suspect usually when they team him up with Deadpool, he basically does the same job that Colossus does in this movie. He plays the straight man to Deadpool's wisecracker. And yeah, fine, that'll probably work. It's a classic movie pairing, and yeah, it does work. So I'll be curious to see where they go, and yeah, I will go see the sequel. It should be, At this point, I'm kind of curious to know how much of the dialogue was improvised, because some of it is so stupid that it sounds like it was just something that Ryan Reynolds made up on set, or it could just be something that was written by the writers. So it's always interesting when you can't tell. But yeah, any other thoughts? Oh yeah, the opening credit sequence. I like that. It's where it's just got insulting credits for everybody until it gets the writers who are the true heroes of the production. So yeah, cute joke. I will freely admit the opening is a cute joke. And yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed Deadpool. It's not a it's not a sort of fantastic or amazing movie, but it's fun and it's the movie I wanted to see. That it was exactly what I was in the mood for at the time, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, yeah, I got nothing else. So thank you very much for watching. Happy Valentine's Day, incidentally, and I will see you in future videos.